This is Bumper to Bumper, the car show. Drive in anxious and cruise out confident. With the best automotive information for your vehicle. And now your hosts, Matt Allen and Dave Riccio.
Well, happy Saturday, everybody, and welcome to Bumper Radio. I am Dave Riccio, here along with Matt Allen, and together we are your KTAR car guys, heard every Saturday from 11 to noon. Here at Bumper to Bumper Radio, we're helping you, the motoring public, have a better overall car experience. We're doing that by educating you, and you probably have a question, because every time I go to a barbecue, someone comes up to me and they got a car question. So I know you got a question, and so give us a call, 602-277-5827, 602-277-KTAR. You can also text us at 411-923. Today on the Bumper to Bumper Roadmap, of course, we're going to be doing a little bit of fact or fiction, a tip of the week, open phones and texts, and this I get every week, Matt. It's almost every other phone call conversation at a transmission shop, because sometimes you're considering an expensive repair. People say, well, why would I put $3,000 into a $5,000 vehicle? Or why would I put $3,000 into a $2,000 vehicle? And my instant answer is, that equation would totally make sense if you were in the car buying business, buying and selling cars. You wouldn't spend $3,000 to sell it for $2,000. But you're not. You're in the cost per mile business, at least most people are. What's going to be my best bang for the buck as far as having a good set of wheels? And so that's the way I look at it, and it depends that if you don't need...
Well, you get it all the time with the transmission shop question, and I get it all the time with the blown head gasket question or the ran out of oil question. And I think before we even go to the should I fix this car or why does it make sense, and there's a good, I don't want to say argument, but you have to debate that with yourself. You've got to lay it out. But the one common denominator, and it may not be so much for you, Dave, with the transmission things, they're usually avoidable problems.
Oh, yeah, a lot of times they are.
And we talk about the good way to ruin your car, driving it the extra mile on the off-ramp or overheating it, or always saying no to the stuff they tell you at the auto repair shop. Usually our regular customers who allow us to maintain their car,
they don't have that big question.
They never have to have this debate with themselves or their spouse or their parent or their child or themselves standing in the mirror. So that's the first thing is let's make sure we're taking care of our car. But then you're right. So what's the we could talk about all kinds of expensive cars, whether it's a $20,000 car that needs a $10,000 engine, or whether it's a Tahoe that a week ago, it didn't make any noise and ran fine and it was worth, I don't know, $11,000.
Right.
But the motor blew up today, or suddenly it's got this rod knock or something, and it needs an $11,000 motor engine. Is it worth it?
Well,
that you have to. The answer oftentimes is yes. Sometimes it's no. But you have to have someone, like you said, Dave, to have that conversation with. And the 23-year-old kid across the counter with no life experience,
he's not the guy to ask that question.
Working at just schlepping oil changes or at the discount coupon repair shop or whatever you have, is not that guy. So how do we look at that? I mean, there's.
Well, here's the way, because I always, my common denominator is what's going to be your best bang for your buck. Because I watch people take a $3,000 problem and fix it with a $30,000 vehicle, which the sales tax on is $3,000. So it's kind of an emotional thing. Like, am I wasting money on this old car? And sometimes people are looking at an old car that's not an old car. Some
they say, well, definition of old car is like 6 years old, and some people's 15.
We had a caller last week. She goes, "Oh, it's got a bunch of miles on it. It was like 120,000." I'm like, that's barely broken in.
Yeah, we're not talking about a 78 Buick.
Yeah, no. So the perspective of what's a good car, what's a tired out car, when do I punt this car and put it out to pasture? But in your explanation, okay, so there's $11,000 Tahoe, the motor goes bad for whatever reason, and it needs, let's say, a $10,000 motor. And a $10,000 motor maybe sounds expensive, but if you're doing it right and you're replacing the radiator and replacing all the mounts and replacing all the hoses, and while you're there, you might as well do it all, because you get to drive this car for another 150,000 miles.
Why do a crappy job for 7 when you can do a cherry job for 10? And those are, again, just making up rough numbers.
But when your motor goes bad, you just took an $11,000 vehicle and now it's only worth $2,000.
Yeah, $2,500 fire sale.
So if you don't if you don't fix it, you just lost $9,000 in the value of the vehicle. Either way, you're spending the money. Either way, whether it's in the value of the car or the value of the repair, it's going to happen either way.
Sure.
You're taking a hit. So why would you do it? So you can put in the $11,000. Basically, you just bought an $11,000 Tahoe, which has got a strong engine in it.
Well, I always say the best used car to buy is the one you already own. So, but let's look at that. So the question, so here you are sitting with this. So here's how we approach it at Virginia Auto Service. We're going to look at the car and say, okay, if it needs this repair, and it's a very holistic approach. The engine is not just we're just not unbolting an engine, bolting another one in there. Larry can do it on the weekend.
Slap it in there. Yeah, shoehorn.
You're doing all the things that make that job a complete thorough job, because the most important thing when you spend that kind of money, we don't want to be back nickel and diming you to death, right, or cutting a corner to save $250, and that $250 causes this new engine to have a failure. So we're going to make a total estimate. But the other thing we're going to do is we're going to evaluate the condition of the entire vehicle, because you don't want to go spend $11,000 then if you've got a bad transmission and a differential howling at you and all these other problems.
An $11,000 motor has $5,000 extra in things you got to take care of.
So what's our canvas look like? Maybe people it's got some decent. They put some new Michelins on it last year. The brakes were done a year and a half ago. So let's look at the foundation. And before we put that engine in, then we're going to do our best to kind of predict what is this going to need over the next several months. And we can put that all together and predict some things and price it out. And then you really start to look at this picture. Now, if you just hate your car and the thing's a total piece of junk and it's just been abused and haven't taken care of, sometimes, and we'll tell you, hey, man, because if we do this job, whether you like it or not, we're married now. We own this.
Yeah, this car even farts over the next 2 years. You're calling us up, so we know what we got to do. Now there is a point in case where, let's just say your motor goes and you say, I really don't want this vehicle. I just need to get it running so I can do something with it. Well, sometimes we do put in used parts. Sometimes we don't go all the way to doing as much stuff. But that's the conversation that has to happen. But you're talking earlier about you just every time you go to the auto shop, you just say no. And I get why people do it, because there's some auto shops out there that are overzealous. They'll sell you everything, whether you need it or not. And so people are kind of on the defense. I don't need that. I don't need that. Well, you say no, and then you build up for the big repair.
But then again, if you're always saying no to your people, why are you even there?
Right.
Because there's a level of distrust.
You're at the wrong
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're always checking your spouse's phone to find out where they were,
you got the wrong spouse.
You got the wrong spouse.
Or you got a problem.
Or you got some issues. You need to go sit on the couch.
Go lay on the couch. Yep.
But the point is, if you're going to this auto repair shop and every time they tell you something, they say no, why are you here?
Right. Yeah.
Go away.
You don't trust the people that are advising you.
Yeah. So we've got to. That's a whole another topic in another show. But so I guess what we're saying here, Dave, is you don't have to have a knee-jerk reaction to no, it's too much money. You really got to just pump the brakes.
Yep.
The other problem when you have to buy a car, that's when you go then make bad decisions that you pay for a long time.
You don't want to shop for groceries on an empty stomach, and you don't want to go car shopping when you don't have a vehicle, because you're going to buy the first wrong thing you see.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is sometimes it's better even to fix a car, even if you're not going to keep it long term. Fix the car, give yourself 6 months or a year, and have a plan for the next vehicle. But now you actually have something to trade in if you're going to trade something in, versus going down to the dealership and trying to negotiate. Well, I got this trade, but it doesn't really run because it's down there at Tri-City Transmission. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It's just a weird conversation. So sometimes it's worth fixing it and saying, okay, I really don't love this car. And the question I ask is, before this car broke, were you already thinking about getting another car? Because that weighs into the decision. Yeah, I already was. I hate this car. I don't want this car another minute. Okay, then let's not fix it.
Cool. Yeah.
Punt. Drop back and kick.
Yeah, get rid of it. Make yourself, especially if you want all the new gadgets and GPSs and safety features. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
The average car on the road right now is in that 12-year-old range. That's average. And in Arizona, it's a little higher. We've got good weather. We don't ruin
not a lot of rust.
We don't lose the cars to rust and salt.
I almost feel like you're talking about Michael Henry's car, because he's got that Avalanche he smoked the motor on.
Yeah.
And, it's right in that value range, and that's about what he spent. So,
it doesn't, and maybe it's not the catastrophic failure, but maybe you're the person, and I know if you're honest with yourself, there's a whole lot of people that are out there that have said this exact same thing. You mean to tell me all this stuff is wrong with my car. I've had this thing since it was new, and I've never had to do anything. And all of a sudden, it needs $2,500 worth of repairs. I mean, come on, people, really think
about what you just said. I
about,
haven't had to do anything, or I haven't done anything. And what do you mean it's bad?
Yeah, I mean, God, I can't imagine. I've never had to do any. I mean, it's just you kind of have some sarcasm in that, in hearing that, and you also have. It's like watching someone. I joke around with the guys at work all the time because our office is our lunchroom. And at least once a week they put something in the microwave. It comes out sizzling hot, and they buy it. They're like, "Damn, that was hot!" I'm like, "It just came out of the microwave."
What do you expect?
What do you expect? You just drove your car 150,000 miles and done nothing but change the oil. What do you expect?
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be a catastrophic failure. And sometimes if people get in the same situation, they automatically say no. I'll just go get a new car. Well, really think about that.
Yeah, you gotta let that marinate on your mind. You gotta consider your options. You gotta consider, is there changes coming down the road? Are you thinking about having kids? You don't need to necessarily fix a 2-door sports car convertible if you got your wife's pregnant with twins. That's okay. Maybe we don't fix it.